Data House, which is a local consulting firm that's helped clients for over 40 years to innovate and implement solutions, have used their organizational experiences and technology and consulting expertise to develop a framework to foster innovation. The best part, the framework is their contribution to support Hawaii in its growth. They're willing to share this IP for us to use. And now I'd like to introduce our guest for today. Clyde Shiigi is the Chief Innovation and Strategy Officer at Data House. Clyde's entire career has been in information technology, starting as a college intern in the 80s. Throughout his 41-year career at Data House, Clyde's worked in all aspects of information technology, including software development, project management, management consulting, and executive leadership positions, such as being their CTO and their president and CEO. Clyde's worked with numerous government agencies and commercial businesses in Hawaii, the US, mainland, Japan, and helped expand Data House businesses in healthcare, government, education, and banking. In his current role as Chief Innovation and Strategy Officer, Clyde works with Data House consultants, customers, and partners to plan and deliver value to stakeholders through the initiative, through innovative approaches and solutions. Our second speaker is John Chung. He's a civil engineering manager at BCH, a BK company. John has spent most of his career at Bell Collins, starting as a college intern also, and working his way to becoming a partner of the firm. A jack of several trades, Jack serves in numerous capacities at Bell Collins, including IT support, drafting, engineering, and management. He has experience in a broad range of developmental projects, including resorts, golf courses, condos, and utility and transportation infrastructure. Drawing from his interest in computing, fostered in middle school, John continues to seek ways to appropriately integrate technology to enhance the firm's ability to serve its clients. And with that, I'd like to invite Clyde to share his screen and come to the stage. Clyde, welcome.
Hi, John. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks for everybody for joining and spending time today to talk about innovation. And it's great to see so many people interested in this subject. And also thank you, John, for joining me. I'll buy you lunch. Zippies again, all right? But I have deep respect for John as a leader and a champion for innovation in our community. I've had the pleasure of working with him, and we work together on helping to foster innovation in Hawaii with our students and helping the next generation. So appreciate John joining us and sharing his experiences today. So let me share my screen and get started. So today we wanted to talk about innovation, in support of TRU's mission to foster innovation in Hawaii. We wanted to share our guide to innovation that we created. We call it Ideas to Impact, and it's really what we consider a practical guide that we've found useful for ourselves, but we wanted to share it with the community, and if it can help foster innovation in our community, then that would be great. So let me go through our agenda today. It's really two parts. I'll talk about the innovation program, which is our framework. I'll talk about how we define innovation, what the framework is, the approaches and methods and tools that we use within it. And then John and I will talk about some of the innovation journeys that we've been on, and how we apply the process or the approach of innovation in those journeys, and then talk about some of the results of it. So let me start with the program itself. And before I get into it, I want to just to explain some of the origins of this guide that we're sharing today. And it really started, as a internal playbook for us, for Data House, to help us, in keeping up with the changes in our industry. So Data House has been around since 1975, so that's 46 years. And having been, at Data House for 41 of the 46 years, I personally believe that innovation is what helped us, not only survive, but I think thrive over those years. So we felt that it's important to try to memorialize the practices, the intuitions, the principles, and some of the values around innovation to help future generations of Data House folks to be able to continue into the next 46 years. And after doing that, we shared it with our people, our staff, as well as customers and partners, and with Michelle, and found that this might be useful for anybody. So we wrote it in a way where we could share it with everybody, and that's what we're going to be sharing today. We don't claim to know everything about innovation, and I'm sure there's other guides and approaches that are out there. This is just something that we found works for us, and so your results may vary, but if you find any of this useful, I would encourage you to tailor it and make it fit your organization. And by all means, share it with others, like how we're sharing ours, so that others can learn from your experience as well, and we can all work together to better our community. So with that, let me get into the program. But the first thing is to understand why innovate. And every organization has their own why, but it's always good to start with why. And by connecting it to the goals and the strategy of the organization is probably the best approach for it. For Data House, a lot of it was around sustainability, because if we're not constantly innovating and looking for new and better ways to create value for our customers, then we quickly become not relevant, because the technology is always changing. And even though we've been doing it for 40 plus years, I must say that today is probably more challenging than it's been over the four decades. And the reason I think is because the pace of innovation has just accelerated so much. I think you can attribute a lot of that to the cloud technology and things becoming so available so quickly and accessible. And that's created this pace of innovation that it's causing a lot of disruptions. And that's being felt by many industries, not only technology, whether you're in healthcare, banking, restaurants, retail, everybody's facing this. And so digital transformation has become like a new buzzword. Everybody's trying to find ways to innovate and transform so that they don't become disruptive. The pandemic definitely has driven a lot of need for innovation. People always needing to look at how they deliver products and services given the new normal, and some of the times creating new business opportunities for that. The interesting part about it is looking at the relationship between innovation and people and culture. And for Data House, innovation has always been a strategy to attract and retain the best and the brightest. And I think what we're finding is, today, many people, especially the younger workforce, are looking for innovation to be, just part of their way of working and just baked into the culture. And, I think I can speak for myself personally, that's the reason why I've been at Data House for 41 years, is because the innovation culture, the freedom to try new things, to experiment, is something that's kept me here that long. And I think many people have that same feeling. So the other question is, why have an innovation program? Because as I go through this, I think you'll find that a lot of what we're covering is very intuitive and second nature to many of us, especially those that are involved in the innovation process today. And one thing that we've learned is that if you want to have things more repeatable and intentional, it's always good to have something in writing, or to have some framework to help to communicate it and share it. there's very few people that can just inspire people just by talking about it, and I'm definitely not one of them. And so what really helps is to have a framework or program so that you can explain it and share it with people and people can understand it. And I like to use the analogy of a physical fitness program when we talk about innovation, because like innovation, you know, people understand the value or importance of staying physically fit. People, they generally know how to exercise, but how many people actually do it? You can better your chances of staying physically fit if you have a fitness program. And so in fitness, there's an acronym FITT, frequency, intensity, time, and type, that forms the foundation for most fitness programs. And so the idea of ideas to impact, or having a framework for innovation, is like fit for innovation. It's a program to keep organizations creatively fit. So what we found is really important is to define what we mean by innovation, because unless you define it, people may not understand what you're talking about. And different organizations may have their own definition of it. For Data House, for us, we view innovation as simply newer and better ways of doing things, and that it comes in all shapes and sizes. So it could be, groundbreaking, things that resulted for us in new companies being formed. But it also could range all the way from just improvements to what is currently being done or the solutions we're providing, and that provide incremental value. And by defining it that way, for us, it makes innovation more doable for many more people, and more scalable. It also makes it, people feel like they can do it if it's defined that way, because very few people think, that they can do come up with the breakthrough ideas. So another thing that helps is to try to demystify innovation for people. And I like this, idea of the ideas never stand alone. It's from a book, Scott Birkin, I think, Demystifying Innovation is the title of the book. And it, it really describes innovation as being like a puzzle where you're putting known pieces together, and you may be filling in the part that might be missing with something new, but there's a lot that's already put together for you by having pieces that already exist. So if you can think of like an iPhone, which many of us consider like a marvel of innovation in itself, I mean, the pieces that it makes up an iPhone was, made up of pieces that, already existed in the past. And this is a quote that I like that says the same thing. And it says, creativity is just connecting things. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they didn't really do it. They just saw something and it seemed obvious to them after a while. And this is a quote from Steve Jobs. And this was sent to me by one of our software developers. And he says, Clyde, is this what you mean by innovation? I say, yes, this is exactly what we mean. And I think when it's described like this, then people can feel like, that's like, it's less intimidating to be an innovator. And so everybody can become part of the process. So let me get into the program itself, and we'll talk about the pillars of it. And I won't go into too much detail of each one because that's in the guide. And we'll make the guide available for anyone that wants to download it. But it has three main pillars: people, methods, and tools. And the first one being people, that's, the really, in our view, the main ingredient. People are the main ingredient, but it's the most, probably the most complex, but also the most interesting. There's many aspects of people in innovation. And we found, a lot of these aspects of it, like leadership, skills, having an agile mindset, curiosity, culture, organizational change management, and people development, are aspects of innovation when it comes to people, especially people development, how innovation and innovative process can help people develop professionally and personally. This is a popular technology adoption curve that categorizes people, to be visionaries, early adopters on this side of the chasm, and early majority, late majority laggards on this side. And it's something that we use when we think about people to help with innovation. So what we see is that visionaries and early adopters help us lead the way, because they can help to come up with the innovations, or help to bring the others on board by connecting, collaborating, and actually creating the innovation. And rather than starting off with people that are down on this side of the spectrum, it helps a lot when you're working with people that can help to lead the way and bring the rest of the people on board. This is something interesting. I mean, you look at the how solar panels and electric cars kind of play out in this type of curve. I think in the case of solar panel, a lot of people are already on this side of it where they're adopted. But in electric cars, like I had an electric car from 2011, the first Leaf that came out, and most electric car owners are on this side of the curve. They're visionary early adopters, and it's going to take some big like innovation, like maybe a Ford 150 Lightning, which is the best-selling truck in the world, I think, to help bring maybe the other people on board to expand the market for electric cars. But the point about this slide is to find people or enlist people's help in leading innovation, and the ones that can help are the ones on this side of it. This is some article that somebody recently sent me. I thought it was really interesting when you apply it to innovation, because this one is how Ikea, those that know Ikea know that they're a kind of amazing home furnishings empire that sells affordable quality products, but you have to put it together yourself. And so the Ikea effect is the effect of how people associate higher value on things that they created or things that they put together themselves. And there's even a Harvard Business School study about this whole effect. And the way we think about it in terms of innovation is that we want to engage people in the process of innovation and make it what we call make innovation a team sport, so that everybody participates in it. And through that participation, they can, create value for themselves, what they create, but also to help, other people, adopt those innovations as well. So next pillar is the methods, and I'll go through this this concept we call community sourced innovation. And the whole idea around this is based on the premise of the puzzle pieces, that no one person knows all the pieces that are out there that can create the best solution. So it's best to form a community of people that can contribute the different pieces to it. And so that's why we call it community source innovation. And by community, we mean, just more than one person. It can be within an organization, or it can span across organizations in a real community. But the idea is to, start with an opportunity, form and grow a community that can understand needs, ideate, and discover more people that can add to the community, and then go through a process of iteratively coming up with a solution, and coming up with something that can be useful or add value. And this is something that I think we believe that Hawaii is very well aligned to, because of our natural culture of community and working together and being able to connect with people within our geographically contained state, allows us to create these communities that we can work together on, create a solution. And our vision is really to make Hawaii a showcase to the rest of the world rather than the other way around typically. So this is an innovation canvas we created, and I know it has 7 steps on it, but it's really to provide some guidance in the thought process of innovation. A lot of this could be just mental processes as you go through it. In some cases, we actually formally go through these steps depending on the size of the shape of the innovation. But the important thing is to have a process, because how many times have we been in meetings where ideas are being discussed, but then nothing happens after that because there's no approach or process to incubate and further that. And so that's what the intent of this is, really taking it from Lean Canvas, which is like a 1-page business plan. This is like a 1-page innovation map that we follow. And I'll go through each one of these steps quickly to give you a sense of what we do within each step. And we have this all written in the guide as well that we can share with everybody. So the first step is important, is before we begin, step 1, and it's really the idea of having safe spaces within organizations for innovation to be able to incubate and have conversations around ideas. And many organizations have these safe spaces already in place. For us, they exist in project teams, cohort groups, committees, even one-on-one check-ins, where people feel free to just share ideas and just say what they think. And that's something that starts the conversation around innovation and what can be done. Identifying opportunity spaces helps to focus on specific areas of innovation, and then framing that opportunity in a way that creates appreciative approach to discussing it, where the conversation around it can grow. So we use a technique called appreciative inquiry, which is described in the guide, but it's a way to frame the opportunity in a way where the conversation can grow. So the next step 2, is we talk about it, about what could we do, because this is where we connect people, we seek the champions or whoever can contribute to the idea, and we have conversations or meetings around that. And the steps within this, a lot of times it helps to go through an empathy mapping process. This is from design thinking, but it does help to empathize with the constituents or your customers, stakeholders, to understand how they feel about the situation, how they think, what they see. That's a empathy mapping exercise to really understand the nature of the issue. And then from there, it helps to facilitate ideation or inform the ideation by coming up with ideas that might address some of these concerns. Then there's a bunch of things that could be done, but then we get into a step of what should we do. And these, by the way, these steps are all part of a process called strategic doing that we borrow these ideas from. But what should we do is the idea of fleshing out the what could we do ideas and identifying which ones would be good to pursue. And we like to call it like find the big easy, because a lot of times ideas just get stifled because they just seem too hard and just too challenging to take on. But if we break it down and we call it cupcake, birthday cake, wedding cake. So if we break things down into smaller pieces, a cupcake is just like a fully baked cake, it's just smaller. And see if it can be done easier and it would have some degree of impact, then that's candidates for things that should be done. So that's step 3. Then step 4, we always like to think about what the goals are, about what we're trying to achieve, and that could be the basis of measurement after you're finished. And Amazon has an interesting concept called working backwards, where they actually write a press release of the final product before they even begin, and that helps them stay focused on the innovation that they're working on. Step 5 is where all the hard work is done. It's the what will we do. So now you have an idea of what you should do, and what's the goals. Now it's actually doing it, and this is an iterative agile process. Those are familiar with agile methodologies know about sprints and breaking things down into increments, which reduces risk and helps to progress through creation of a solution. And this is where prototypes and all kinds of ideas, and it's interesting when you connect assets, they bring all the different skills and knowledge to the table that can form the overall solution. And depending on the size of it, sometimes it helps to track the progress. We use Jira or some other project or product tracking system to help us keep track of everything going on in this step. Then review, learn, and adjust is something that's always good to do to always improve on what you're creating. And by capturing everything along the way helps to review, learn, and adjust, because you can refresh memories and know what steps that you went through. So that's what we do in this step. And then the final step is to create value from the ideas, and that's by operationalizing it. And that can come in the form of sharing it with others, packaging it, implementing it. It may result in a new business, something that you would sell, or just helping you leverage to support your existing business. But this step is best viewed as something that is a continuous cycle of improvement when you get to this step. So after you create whatever you created from the innovation, then to go through a process of continuously looking at it and to continuously add value to it. So that's the methods pillar. And the last pillar is the tool pillar. I'll just mention a couple of them that we found very useful to us. And one of them is called Mural. It's a virtual collaborative workspace that we have been using for many of our innovation activities. And it's a way to capture all the information that goes on in the process, preserve it like a whiteboard, but it never gets erased. And many organizations now, because of work from home, have this digital first strategy where everything should be in a digital form so that it can be shared by people, and people can work asynchronously as well as synchronously on it. Other tools like Microsoft Teams are useful for collaborating and storing documents and setting up meetings. And then I mentioned technology enablers, because they are tools that help the innovation process, because they bring to the table something that can be seen and touched and felt by people. That they may be like prototypes or demos. I think true use cases are good examples of technology enablers, because there are things that can be seen as far as how they work, and they often are the catalysts for somebody's innovation activities. So I'll just wrap up my part by talking about these key success factors. And the ones that I identify here, first is connect the dots to align innovation with goals and strategies. So it's important for everybody that's working on innovation to understand how, why they're doing it. How does it connect to the overall business goals and strategy? Leadership at all levels, definitely from the top to promote innovation and to lead by example, but also find the leaders, the early adopters that can lead the way, and that helps to build their skills and their professional development. Think who, not how. This is find the people and connect them and discover their assets. So create these networks and not hierarchies. Take a top-down and bottom-up approach. from the top, setting the vision and enabling innovation to happen within an organization, but engage with everybody within the organization to make it a team sport and to have them all participate. Take a cupcake, birthday cake, wedding cake approach, meaning, just break it down and take an iterative, just get started. It doesn't have to be 100% solution, but the important thing is to get started along a journey to create the innovation. And then show, don't tell. It's always better to show people how things can be done versus tell them to do it, because that helps them see, envision, what's possible. So that's the program itself. I'm going to switch over to John to talk about the innovation journey that he's been on, in his different parts of his career. And so, John, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Clyde. So the journey that I was a part of is what we call the CIP Project Tracker. This was a program that I was a part of a team that developed for a short while when I was at the Department of Education. I had left private consulting to work in the facilities development branch at the DOE. And while we were there, we created, we had a tool to manage all of our projects called FactTrack, which is pretty advanced for its time. It was an online tool that was developed probably about 15 years ago, well before the time of the iPhone and all of those online tools. So it was fairly advanced for its time. It was an online repository of project information that tracked project milestones from planning through construction. And this was a very important tool for the department. However, it was a bit clunky and tedious to use. And as a result of that, it wasn't consistently used in gathering information, resulting in a lot of data gaps. Go to the next slide, Clyde. So a group of us conceived CPT with a simple goal to improve the department's ability to manage projects from inception to completion. There was no thought of let's be innovative, and we certainly didn't do it so we could one day present a case study to the community. I blame Clyde for that, for dragging me into this. But to achieve this goal, we identified a handful of guiding principles. We needed to pull all the project data into one location so queries and reporting could be done quickly and accurately. We needed to make the staff's job easier. It had to be so simple to use that the staff wanted to use CPT instead of doing it the old way. We had to consult with the staff who managed the data and would become the end users of the tool. Their input was very important. And the last guiding principle we adopted was we wanted to start small and move carefully. Next slide. So kind of mapping our keys to success to the keys that Clyde had mentioned earlier. Connect the dots. The simple task of providing a status update on a project or updating upper management on the department's progress was a Herculean task. Information was stored in several silos. They were difficult to aggregate and very difficult to validate once compiled. And this is an ongoing exercise, fire drill that occurred regularly. It was very exhausting. So fixing this one problem would minimize a large recurring headache for a lot of the staff. Another key was leadership at all levels. A change of this scale not only needs buy-in from management, but it needed a team of people to advocate for change and a team of people that people would listen to willingly and sometimes reluctantly. So in our case, our champions, it was a team, and the team consisted of our boss, the assistant superintendent, his executive assistants, and all three of the branch administrators responsible for the facilities. So we pretty much had all of the head people on board and driving this effort forward. On the who, not how, numerous people are involved with the project from inception to completion, a CIP project that is, each bringing their different perspectives and needs. Their input and insights were key to developing a tool that they would want to use. So their input was very key. Go to the next slide, Clyde. From the top down and bottom up, as CPT was being developed, it became clear that numerous individuals would benefit from the tool, not just people within the organization, but external people as well. So this notion of being useful to a broader audience became a guiding principle in the direction of development. The involvement of the broader audience also helped with adoption from staff. Everyone had to do their part in maintaining the tool, knowing the legislator and school administrators, our clients essentially, were accessing the information. On a cupcake, birthday cake, wedding cake, we adopted an agile development process, although we didn't really know it at the time. It was build, test, validate, and repeat. This way we didn't get too far ahead of ourselves and built something that wasn't useful. We were frequently checking the progress to make sure our cupcake didn't turn into a custard pie at the end. As a result, as the development progressed and staff started to see the value, there was a desire to add more and more functionality, which distracted from our primary goals. This is where a champion with authority had to come in. We had to put the kibosh on certain efforts because they were detracting from the overall goal. But we did allow the cupcake to change form. Sometimes it was a plain cupcake. Sometimes we added frosting with sprinkles on it. Occasionally it started to look like a healthy muffin. But we allowed the development to evolve within certain limits. Early on, we adopted a policy that features added must either be project or facility related information. That was our way to establish the limits and provide people guidance on help steer their feedback and shape it, so they weren't too far out of the ballpark in what we were trying to accomplish. On show, don't tell, as CPT rolled out, we rolled out CPT in increments with near full functionality at every release, allowing individuals to take it for a test drive. This helped create credibility in the process. It wasn't just some hairball idea that the champions team kept talking about. It was real and it was in their hands, and they could actually see and feel and play with it. Being able to play an active and meaningful, being able to play with the tool gave the staff an active and meaningful role in the development. Oftentimes, you don't know enough to even ask a question. So being able to interact with it often led to new ideas and created new opportunities for functionality and directions for CPT. Just a couple of final thoughts. The fact that we were improving an existing system that was widely used and understood by the staff gave us a tremendous advantage. We didn't have to start from scratch, and most of the staff already understood the process, the need, and the inputs that was going into this system. And innovation comes at many scales, as simple as doing something different to creating whole new processes. In our case, we stitched together established tools and processes, and even drew inspiration from other school districts that had created something similar to CPT. Our innovation journey was that we dared to be different, not that we created something completely new. That's our story.
Thanks, John, for sharing that. And yeah, that's really how I met John, is along the journey, probably at the beginning of it. And yeah, it's pretty amazing what, the process of it, and, what the results that were achieved, from it. I want to also share another journey that John and I have been involved in. And this is something that we work together on as a way to help our community. And it's what we call a Community Innovation Mentorship Program, CIMP. And so this is something an opportunity that we thought about within Data House. And it was about, I think it came from our community service committee, who typically are, they think about the activities we can do to help our community, like beach cleanup and food drives and things like that. And that's a safe space to have conversations. And one of the members asked the question is, how can we do things to help our community that takes advantage of our core competencies, meaning like, building software, or building solutions. How can we leverage that to offer value to our community? That was like a curiosity question that came up in the group. But that was a spark that started this whole innovation journey that occurred. And the result of it was a CIMP program that is in its going to be in its second year. So just to map it to the process that I just went through, the innovation canvas that I just described in the 7 steps, just to give you a sense of how this could work, is that it started with our committee, like I mentioned, that wanted to find ways that we can help our community by leveraging our core competencies. So that was where we started. Then, we thought about everything we could do, and we started to talk to different, different people that we knew in the community, and it included, some of our customers, as well as the University of Hawaii, Transform Hawaii as well as True. And we, thought about different ideas and what would make sense to do in the community. And we came up with this idea of a community innovation mentor program. And we call it a pilot or a cupcake. We just wanted to try it out for 1 semester with limited number of students. So we worked together with the University of Hawaii to form a program that the students could get credit for. And we talked to one of our clients that gave us a use case to work on. And our vision for it, our goal was to create something that's repeatable and scalable and sustainable, so that it's not only, Data House doing it, but it's something that anybody could do. So we actually went ahead and did it. So we started in 2020, was it 2020? Yeah, last year. And we worked on some use cases with the clients. We got students in a class, and we had our mentors work with them. We, continuously had to adjust, and because that's when COVID took place, and everything had to be remote at that point. So we had to work with that. And then we ended up, completing the program and doing a final presentation and got feedback. And I think the value that was created through this was, from the students sharing, what they got out of it. That really gave us a drive to continue to pursue this idea. So that led us to a CIMP 2.0, which is where John, John and I had lunch one day, and I said, "Hey, John, let me tell you about this idea of a community source innovation program, and would you be interested in being part of our community?" And he graciously said, "Yeah." And that's where it just took off, where we had True already in place. Michelle was already involved in CIMP 1.0. The University College of Engineering was already involved, and the computer science or computer engineering students were part of our initial 1.0, and we had Data House, as a mentor. But once John came on with the BCH, he brought a whole nother, value to an asset to the community with civil engineering experience and background and knowledge. And this is where, John, maybe you can kind of share from you, how did you, connect all these other parts to it? Because you came up with the use case for us to work on, and you connected up civil engineering students, Waipahu High School, and the DOE. Maybe you can talk about that part of the journey that you went on.
Well, it really grew organically. We started with the concept of this idea that drawing from my interest in wanting to connect computing with design and engineering and those tools. So when you mentioned the use of having access to the computer engineering students, that really piqued my interest and got me thinking about how can we take an engineering design issue problem and integrate the technology part to it. And so that's where that piece of it came in. We leveraged some existing programs. The University of Hawaii had a capstone senior design project. And so there's students in that program that, along with a lot of other industry mentors that can help them move, help the students with their projects. And so that was a nice asset to tap into. And then we also tapped into the Waipahu High School. I'm a member of the board of their Academy of Engineering. And with the idea that, why not extend this concept of integrated learning into the high schools and connect them with the college students of not only engineering college students, but computer engineering college students, along with all of the industry mentors. Like I said, it happened organically. We didn't really plan to get this big, but I'm very happy and pleased that it did. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of our journey with that.
Thanks. Michelle, I know we're running out of time, but I just want to go through this third opportunity because it's of interest to many people today because of the COVID and work from home. But this one was related to this is a data house journey that we wanted to find ways to continue to reinforce our culture while more people are working remotely and don't have face-to-face interaction. And I'll just skip to the solutions that we end up with. One is called Donut and the other one's called Bonusly. And if anybody wants to learn more about this, then yeah, I'll be happy to share kind of our journey with them and the results of it. But I'll turn it over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Clyde and John. Clyde, if you turn on your video, why don't we just do a quick Q&A before I close out?
Great.
Thank you. So we have a question from Michael. He's asking, how do you address organizational resistance to innovation and change? You covered it a little, maybe an example would be great.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Well, in our case, being a state agency with a lot of long-term people, there was a lot of resistance. So the way we tackled it is a number of different ways. We tried to work with a lot of the younger staff and tried to appeal to their, they had a lot more forward-thinking, they're more app-centric type people. And so we tried to get buy-in at that level. As far as the more senior people who were a little bit more set in their ways, I mentioned that we adopted the philosophy that the change had to be good for them. We had to make things easier. And so we found ways to reduce their administrative burden. One way was they were logging all of their consultant payments on a ledger. They were handwriting all these things. And so we said, you know what, there's the financial system that logs all that information. So you can stop logging these things and we'll draw the information from the other systems into the CPT. So you have the same functionality, but you don't even have to record all this information anymore. And we did this incrementally. So we described it, we programmed it in, developed it, and we let them see it, to demonstrate to them, hey, it's real. We're actually addressing your concern, promising you something, delivering it to you, and it's not just talk and fluff. That was the only way that was really the way we approached it. We tried not to take the top-down approach and mandate it because that rarely works, if ever. And we used that very sparingly, but that was our approach, try to get their buy-in and appeal to what their needs are and try to help them along with their process.
Yeah, John very followed this model of finding the people that can help lead the way and can show how things can be done.
That's great. What do you think are the key attributes that are required to make the innovation successful? Where if you don't have these two,
Well, maybe we can go to the main ingredient, the people, because that's really what it's really the people, and it's having the right leadership that allows people to experiment and to try new things and not to penalize failure. because that's one of the biggest, impediments to innovation is risk. And if an organization says it's okay to fail, there's a really great quote from Nelson Mandela about, I never lose, I either win or learn. And that's definitely the way, we certainly haven't succeeded in every single innovation that we've done over the decades, but it was always treated as a learning opportunity. And from there we can, you can grow and learn and, come up with, better ideas. So having that type of leadership and culture and mindset that, encourages innovation, I think is one of the biggest ingredients.
I think for our experience, it was having the right expertise in the room. I mean, we had the advantage of, I understood the process and I had an interest in computing, and another one of the administrators had a tech background. And so, and the third branch administrator just had a long history at the department and understood the inner workings of the facilities. And so the three of us bouncing ideas off of each other and filling in the gaps of knowledge where for some people, and we just collaborated together. So having that expertise is very key. It couldn't just be, yes, we want to innovate, let's go hire someone to do it. We were actively involved in the whole process and providing input for Data House to move forward and to do what they needed to do. And they also brought a lot of expertise on, setting realities for us. That's, that really doesn't work, or this might be a better way to approach it. And it was very much a collaborative effort, but having that expertise was key.
Thank you. I know it's made a difference for True. There's this wonderful group of people who's supporting True in this innovation framework. Glenn Kaleo, in addition to Clyde, John, and Franco. And having the different voices, different perspectives has made a huge difference. So I agree with that.
We're glad to help.
With that, I want to thank you for that. And we have some fun in there too, right?
Yes.
It's gotta be fun. With that, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I wanted to thank you all for your participation today. And thank you, especially John and Clyde, for showing how we can foster a culture of innovation. The examples that you shared really brought the process to light. And I love that you're both so willingly open to sharing your journeys. My favorite lesson from this event is the cupcake. I share that all the time. Not custard pie or a muffin or frosted.
John is an amazing baker, by the way. He makes amazing pie.
Next meeting. But I love the concept behind it. Start small, find a working success, and then gain energy from that to build the next thing. So I love that. So thank you both.